So I invite, and I, the honourable member from Regina Capel, did you already withdrew?
You know what? Scheer was a way better speaker than Fergus can ever even hope to be. Like, he is just annihilating him right now. Welcome back to Question Period for Tuesday, November the 19th. Today, Michelle Rempel Garner stole the show before Question Period even started.
Let's take a look.
The honourable member from Calgary Nose Hill.
Today, Cree lawyer Leah Ballantyne, who is a survivor of the 60s scoop, was quoted as saying, "Identity fraud is fraud. I think someone who has taken an oath of office to represent people in a level of government has an ethical duty to be honest with all constituents and all people in Canada, in which case the Minister of Employment has not done." She's right. That Liberal minister falsely claimed Indigenous identity. His company received government contracts using that stolen identity, apparently while consorting with cocaine dealers, and all while he was a sitting Minister of the Crown. What kind of a message is the government sending by allowing him to sit in cabinet? As Jody Wilson-Raybould said today, the Prime Minister is making a mockery of reconciliation and is enabling, quote, white people playing ancestry wheel of fortune. That fraudulent minister must resign or the Prime Minister must fire him.
I was listening very carefully to the honourable. Listening very carefully to the honourable member, and it is order, please. I was listening very attentively to the honourable member's statement, and for most of the statement, it was within the bounds. The last sentence, by impugning a member directly, is not permitted in this place. I'm going to ask the honourable member just to withdraw that word so that we can move on.
Mr. Speaker, I was quoting a Cree lawyer who called the minister a fraud. He is a fraud, and I don't withdraw.
Wow, it started early today.
Yeah, so we've just been sitting here recording it as it's been playing live, and we were just waiting for Question Period to start.
Right, because this is the statements from members. The 15 minutes between 2 o'clock and 2:15 during the week, and then I believe it's 11 o'clock and 11:15 on the weekends is when they, or sorry, not on the weekends, pardon me, on Fridays, is where they do statements from members. So sometimes you'll hear of like birthdays that are happening within the constituency.
Sometimes deaths, that sort of thing.
Sometimes deaths, sometimes anniversaries, sometimes celebrations, all various manner of things. MPs can pretty much stand up and say whatever they want. And I think Michelle Rempel Garner really did a good job.
Yeah, and any bets on how long it takes her to get named and kicked out?
Let's watch.
I'm going to invite the honourable member. Order. I'm going to invite the honourable member to reflect on this. I see that she doesn't have questions coming up, and I will come back to the honourable member immediately following Question Period so that we can start this on time.
Okay, so I think this would have played out differently if Michelle Rempel Garner actually was on the list for asking questions in Question Period. She is not, so there's not really much of a penalty to
impose upon her.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out after Question Period. So anyway, without further ado, let's take a look.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member from Regina Capel.
Day after day brings these new sordid details about the employment minister's scandal. And yesterday we learned that his company shares a mailing address with an international drug trafficker who's been busted for cocaine not once, but twice. He's been caught out in falsehoods, caught faking Indigenous identity to try to secure government contracts meant for real Indigenous people, and his company is under investigation for 9 fraud-related counts. Why on earth has the Prime Minister not fired this man?
And that's the question that Canadians would like to know.
Yeah. National Post broke a story today that they actually did some digging, things that the Liberals just seem to think that nobody will actually do. Seems it's not something that the CBC is in a habit of doing, at least not when it comes to Liberals. So they actually went back and checked the Canadian census and obituary records, and isn't that interesting? One of the claims that Randy Boissonnault has been making, and he has said it multiple times in the House of Commons, is that he always harkens back to his great-grandmother, who is, I quote Randy, full-blooded Cree.
A full-blooded Cree woman.
A full-blooded Cree woman, yes. Well, that was false. So she wasn't a full-blooded Cree woman. She was Métis. Métis basically just means somewhere along the line, a European ended up, having a family with a Indigenous person, and then, off you go. So essentially means, mixed race, mixed blood, whatever. So, but he's been telling everybody this, and in a way, and how he's been doing this is he's also been kind of saying he's Indigenous as well, and the Liberal Party propped him up as being Indigenous, put him on their poster of the Indigenous caucus.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was part of the Indigenous caucus. I mean, I think you can be a supporter, perhaps, of the Indigenous caucus without being Indigenous. If you have friends, family, people you love and care about, and you want to show that you support them, and maybe you'd like to be part of that caucus because you support them. But it's entirely different to claim heritage when you're not.
Well, and the Indigenous caucus has invited people in to speak that were in support of it, has invited in allies to speak for it. But I don't believe there's anybody on the Indigenous caucus that isn't Indigenous. So
still, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, you can have somebody who is sort of like a what's the right word, an honorary member, right? Again, maybe because his adoptive family is Indigenous,
which is fine, but then I would expect to see on that poster Indigenous caucus, and then under his picture honorary member, right? Because otherwise it's implying every single person on that poster is Indigenous, meaning they have essentially majority or full blood of an Indigenous heritage. So,
but you know what? Honestly, this is such a ridiculous argument for us to have, because if the Liberals did not focus so hard on identity politics, none of this would even matter.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter at all. But this, and if they didn't focus on, white people are bad, they're stealing the Indigenous people's heritage and all this stuff, and making that their party's identity, this wouldn't look like complete blatant hypocrisy. But the other thing that has been found, according to the National Post, is that the minister's company, GHI, actually identified itself as LGBTQ and Indigenous owned. And they used that identification to bid on government contracts within the Indigenous set-aside rules. So it means non-Indigenous companies were not allowed to bid on that. Randy's not Indigenous, so therefore his company shouldn't have been allowed to bid on it.
And I don't think Mr. Anderson is Indigenous.
Pretty darn sure Mr. Anderson's not Indigenous. Anyhow, we get into this in a lot more detail on our next episode of Northern Dispatch with True North. Check that out on Thursday afternoon. Let's get back to question period.
The Honourable Minister for Employment and Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, I don't know the person referred to in that article. I've never met that person. It's stated in the article, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Regina Capel.
Let's recap the scandal so far. He said he was Indigenous, even though he wasn't. He said his great-grandmother was Cree, even though she wasn't. He said there was another Randy working at the company, even though there wasn't, that he had nothing to do with the company while he was in cabinet, even though he was, and his company got a contract while he was sitting around the cabinet table. In a normal government, any one of those scandals would be cause for dismissal.
Yeah, that's right.
So why in this wacko Liberal government does this man still sit in cabinet?
And ask members to be very judicious in their use of words. L'honorable ministre des...
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister has already answered this question many times. The question that we still haven't had an answer for is why the Conservative leader's scandal, who refuses to seek his security clearance and protect himself and his future members during the next election, what is he hiding? When he refuses to get information about the risks of foreign interference for the upcoming elections.
Okay, so we're kind of tired in dealing with this question.
Yeah, because the Liberals just keep bringing it back up. Like, they're just trying to nail home this talking point. And I think at this point, the only people who believe them are other Liberal voters.
Well, and they're not they don't have an intention to get Conservative voters to believe it. Their intention is to just get Conservative voters to question it. That's their goal here. So the first thing that everyone needs to remember is, with all of the Liberal lies that they've been putting out, this is not the one to believe.
Regina Capel.
Well, we don't know what it'll take for this guy to get fired from this Prime Minister. We do know what will get you fired. Remember Jody Wilson-Raybould? She was fired for telling the truth about the Prime Minister's attempts to interfere in a criminal case. Here's what she had to say. A Prime Minister committed to true reconciliation would have removed this minister and the other Randy from cabinet long ago. Instead, we get to watch white people play Ancestry Wheel of Fortune. Ouch. How come under this Prime Minister, a strong Indigenous woman gets fired for telling the truth when a weak, fake Indigenous man gets to keep his job after lying?
Again, I'm going to ask the honourable member from Regina Capel, who once sat in this chair, to withdraw that one word which was directly used to another member, which would not be considered parliamentary. And ask the honourable member to do so.
I'll withdraw the word lying and replace it with telling falsehoods.
The actual word. The word which was being used.
Okay, this is like speaker chess right here.
Yeah, it's speaker versus speaker, because Andrew Scheer knows exactly which words he can and cannot get away with in the House. And I think Fergus is trying to argue that he cannot say telling falsehoods. But I think Andrew knows better.
Well, and that's been used hundreds of times.
Many times.
Hundreds of times. So this is
going to be fun.
It's going to be interesting to see how far this goes. Hopefully it goes a little far, because otherwise it's going to fall flat immediately after this cut.
I'm going to ask the honourable member to withdraw the word fake, please.
Sorry, just for the speaker to clarify, the word fake, but the minister did...
He faked all those things.
The minister is now admitting that he's not Indigenous, so he pretended to be something that he wasn't.
Colleagues, yesterday there were members who were asked to withdraw that very same word.
That's not an excuse. The Green Book says that what is parliamentary one day may not necessarily be parliamentary the next.
Well, and now in fairness, we didn't watch 12 hours of Parliament footage yesterday, but
but I know for certain that's written in the Green Book. I mean, I can grab it off the shelf.
my point is that I didn't, at least during question period, they weren't asked to withdraw fake. They were asked to withdraw fraudulent. So unless some other point they were talking about it, maybe it was in debate where, by the way, if you haven't been watching, the Conservative motion of privilege seems to be now focused on the greatest hits in terms of the Liberal scandals now, and they're on the Randy Boissonneau scandal. So they're actually not even talking about the SDTC scandal right now per se, but they're using other scandals to kind of buttress their argument.
No, that'll keep them busy for a while.
So yeah, well, and they'll never run out of material. That's the thing. But this is interesting. So parliamentary speaker chess going on right here.
And the member did. And so I'm going to ask the honourable member if he could please do so.
I will withdraw the word fake and replace it with either sham, imitation, counterfeit.
The honourable member.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Scheer was a way better speaker than Fergus can ever even hope to be. Like, he is just annihilating him right now.
I love he just Googled fake and he's just reading the synonyms.
Withdraw the word fake and replace it with either sham, imitation, counterfeit.
But he knows which words will get him in trouble and which will not. You know, this is going to be a mess for the poor folks at Hansard to edit.
Oh my goodness. Replace it with sham. Okay, this is something else, folks. It's not even Wednesday, and we're still on the first speaker for the Conservatives. Oh my goodness. And Fergus just losing his crap because he's lost control of this house.
Already.
Colleagues, I've always insisted, I'm going to ask all members please not to take the floor while the speaker is addressing Parliament. When it has been a tradition of this place to ask very tough questions, to keep government accountable. It's important for government, of course, to provide very clear answers. But we try.
Oh, Gregory.
Ouch. Man, he's just floundering up there.
Oh, he is.
Oh, you know, I'd say I feel bad for the guy, but I don't.
I don't. You made your bed.
That's right.
You made your bed with every partisan decision that you've made, and now, yeah.
Try to do this in a way that allows people to treat each other with decorum and respect. And so the honourable member has sat in this chair in this position once before. Yesterday we asked a number of members to, when it was referring to a particular member, to withdraw that same word that I'm just asking for today. I just asked the honourable member just to withdraw that word so we could just move on.
Mr. Speaker, when I sat in that chair, I heard the word fake being used many, many times.
I will come back to this issue later on. I will come back to this issue near the end of question period. We're the honourable leader of the government in the House of Commons.
You know, and this is what Fergus is missing from not being a committee chair or vice chair first, or even like deputy speaker.
Yeah, he doesn't have the training.
No, he has no idea what to do.
Yeah. Like this would be, you know, if you went to school for computer science and you had no experience in the trades, and then someone just threw you in to say, I don't know, like a drywaller's job, and drywalling is tough work if you haven't done it, and they're like, all right, off you go, and he's like, what? Oh yes, well, this is what I wanted to do. You know, I'm going to be the best drywaller ever, and you have no idea what you're doing, absolutely none. And then it's like the guy that has done this for 10 years comes in and looks at your work and saying, what the hell are you doing? That's not straight. That's all wrong. Why did you use 3 pieces when you could have used 1? There's no mud here. What's wrong with you? And I think it's interesting that Fergus could have gone further if he wanted to and did what he did with Pierre and name him and kick him out. But I think he's even more hesitant to kick out Andrew Scheer.
I think he's intimidated.
I think he's intimidated, but it's not just because he was a former leader of the opposition. It's because he was the former Speaker of the House.
Yeah, so Scheer knows the rules better than Fergus. I would bet money on that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, but I think that little display of disrespect for that place is ubiquitous of how Conservative members treat this place. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, it is the very fact that they are trying to distract and make a mockery.
Colleagues.
Okay, it's official. Fergus has lost control of the house again.
Yeah, he has already. And I just want to make a comment about Gold, is that she tries to take this holier than thou approach to be, I think she tries to lead by example and tries to be, what's the right word? Graceful, perhaps. But it comes across as that she is being holier than thou and that she is talking down to people, and her voice gets drowned out. I mean, when you're in an environment like the House of Commons, it gets loud. Like when we're here watching it on TV, we can hear what's being picked up through the microphones. When you're there in person, all you hear is squabbling. Like, you're lucky if you can hear what people are saying. You actually have to use the earpiece more often than not to hear it in your own language, even though the speaker or whoever is speaking happens to be speaking already in your own language, because it's just, the noise just drowns out the voices.
Yeah, and the problem is she's saying, oh, well, you know, they don't have respect for this place. You're talking about a guy that has been shown to have not been accurate, probably even lied about his heritage, lied about his business dealings, lied about being active in his business, and it's all at the expense of the Canadian taxpayer. Never mind all of the other scandals that the Liberals are covering up and refusing to acknowledge. And you're saying that the Conservatives are the ones that don't have respect for the House of Commons.
I'm honestly surprised that the Liberals have not removed him from cabinet yet, because again, now by Karina Gold standing up and sticking up for Randy Boissonneau, it makes her look bad too. It makes the caucus look bad.
Yeah, he's now a lightning rod for criticism, and even Charlie Angus had called him a car crash in slow motion. So yeah, good luck with that.
I'm going to ask the honourable member, the honourable members need I'm going to ask the honourable member from Lanark, Hastings, Addington to please. Sorry, forgive me. Lanark's front there.
This is a gong show. Like, nobody's paying attention. Nobody's listening to him. He's getting frustrated. He's getting so rattled that he's not even addressing people by their proper writing. Fergus.
What are you doing, man?
Forgive forgive me, the honourable member from Lanark, Frontenac and Kingston to please not take the floor when he is not recognized to do so. Now, colleagues.
When everybody else is speaking?
Yeah, because everybody else is speaking.
It must be so loud in there.
Because nobody cares to listen to you. And it's not just the Conservatives. Everyone's talking. Nobody's listening to you. Why? Because nobody respects you.
Right. That, again, Fergus really has no business being Speaker of the House. His name was put forward, or I guess he put his own name forward, and everybody voted on it, and they ended up on Fergus. But really, he doesn't have the experience as a chair. He doesn't have the experience as a deputy speaker. He just doesn't have the experience.
He served as the parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister, which is one of the most partisan roles that you can have. He served on committee, and then all of a sudden it was decided, hey, you should be Speaker, which is a completely non-partisan role.
I do not know if the Honourable Minister had finished her answer because I was not able to hear her. So I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister. I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister to start from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this shameful display of disrespect from the Conservative members of Parliament for this place is on display today, and it is exactly how they have been operating for the past couple of weeks. Mr. Speaker, it is time for them to stop filibustering and obstructing the work of Parliament. It is time for them to start respecting this place, respecting the work we do here on behalf of Canadians. We have deposited up to 29,000 pages worth of documents. They need to stop these games and let everybody get back to work on behalf of Canadians. Thank you.
Green and gold, I bet that's what the Liberals would like, nothing more. But here's the reality. All opposition parties, and the NDP may not want to admit it publicly, but they are doing it privately, and they are doing it in form of concurrence motions. The opposition parties now have control of the House, and they're not letting go. Your government is dead. You guys should just call an election at this point, because you are not going to get any other legislation passed.
I don't know if this has ever happened in our country's history before. This might be totally unprecedented.
It could be.
I honestly don't know, but one would think that the opposition parties would get together and force a non-confidence vote and bring down the government. Or maybe one would think that the government would have enough foresight to go, yeah, this is over for us. We're not doing anything else. Let's dissolve Parliament ourselves.
Well, that's in the best interest of Canadians, and when have the Liberals done that?
Touché.
The Honourable Member from Calgary, Nose Hill, is rising on a point of order. The Honourable Member.
Speaker, earlier you issued an admonishment stemming from a quote in the National Post from a Cree lawyer who noted that the Minister of Employment committed identity fraud when he falsely claimed Indigenous heritage. The Minister's company falsely claimed Indigenous ownership and subsequently received government contracts. What word would you suggest Indigenous persons use to describe the Minister?
That's. I'm not certain if that's a point of order. The point of order which I was going to be coming to the Honourable Member of Calgary Nose Hill was that she had used the term, which is not appropriate in this place, to call another honourable member fraudulent. As it happened during question period, another honourable member did the same thing and withdrew the comment. I invite the honourable member from Calgary Nose Hill to please simply withdraw the use of that word in reference to a specific member of Parliament, a colleague of all of ours.
As recorded in the Hansard on February 9th, 2023, the member from Mirabel referred to the Prime Minister as a fraud. No admonishment was issued. Why are you admonishing me today?
This is not a debate. I'm asking the honourable member if she would please please withdraw the simple comment on the use of that word in reference to another honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, I was quoting an Indigenous person as it pertained to identity fraud by the Minister.
One last time, I'm going to ask the honourable member if she would please withdraw the use of that word in reference to a particular member. I do not see the honourable member rising. Ms. Rempel Garner, I have to name you for disregarding the authority of the chair. Pursuant to the authority granted to me by Standing Order 11, I order you now to withdraw from the House from any participation by video conference or by electronic voting system for the remainder of this day's sitting. I would also, the chair also said they would come back to I want to also refer to an issue which was raised earlier today by the chair when the member from Regina Capel had used the words weak fake Indigenous man gets to keep his job after lying. Upon reflection and after some research, I am prepared to let fake slide, but will insist, as I did during QP, to not allow lying to be used. So I invite, and the honourable member from Regina Capel, did you already withdrew? Yeah. And I thank the honourable member for having done that, and we'll move on from there.
He is such a joke.
There it is. I told you he couldn't stand up to Scheer. Absolutely couldn't do it because Scheer is a way better speaker and he's way more knowledgeable. Just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and very interesting and expected that Rempel Garner was named, and oh no, she's not going to be able to participate in business that isn't happening in the House.
Right.